And in a way, everything that we're attempting to do is bound up with this concept of Yerushalayim, Ir HaKodesh. Yerushalayim, really the holy city, right? Ir, city, HaKodesh, the holy city. But the truth is that tzaddikim say that the word Ir, while it means city, can actually also connect to the concept of hisorurus, which means awakening, to wake up. Lena'er means to shake something awake. Lena'er. And in that sense, Yerushalayim, Ir HaKodesh, doesn't simply mean Jerusalem, Yerushalayim, the holy city. But it's actually Yerushalayim, the city, that Ir HaKodesh, that awakens the holiness within us. Yerushalayim, Ir HaKodesh. It's a city that when you go there, you feel a little bit elevated. You feel a little bit higher. There's a part of you that gets dusted off and that's brought to the fore, to the surface. Everything that we're trying to accomplish is to allow us to taste a little bit, even here, even now, a little bit of a taste of Avira de Eretz Yisrael, that spirit of Eretz Yisrael, in the hope of awakening some part of us that maybe we gave up on, maybe we forgot about, or maybe we never even got in touch with in the first place. So b'siyata d'shmaya, I'd like to open just with a few short words. To express what really Eilecha is, this organization that I have the privilege of being associated with. How many of you in the room have heard of Rabbi Nachman of Breslov? Hands up if you've heard. Okay. That itself is a miracle, you understand? So Rabbi Nachman of Breslov lived 280, 290 years ago in a tiny, small village in Ukraine, a few villages. At the max in his lifetime, at the peak, the last Rosh Hashanah of his life, he had 600 Hasidim there. That, in relation to other tzaddikim, is not even nothing, is less than nothing. And that was after years and years, the persecution that he went up against and had to deal with, the marginalization, all the way leading up to the Holocaust. After the war, 90% of Breslover Hasidus was eradicated. 90%. From Poland, from Ukraine. And today, almost every group you speak to, any Jew that you meet, and you mention this name, it brings with it a storm of emotion. You ever notice? No Jew can remain unmoved when you mention that name, Rabbi Nachman of Breslov. Nobody just has no opinion. It does something to you. It shakes you. Rabbi Nachman wanted it that way. He said so explicitly. One day, Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, Zchus Yagan Aleinu, was standing in his base medrash, which was on the second floor, overlooking the marketplace, overlooking the shuk. And he noticed, as he was looking down, standing at this window, in what I assume is a very calm state, because that's how I imagine this tzaddik, very calm, with Yishuv Adas, settled mind. He was watching what was unfolding below, buying, selling, merchandise, moving things from one place to another, business meetings. And he noticed, as he was looking down, he saw one of his Hasidim was scurrying to and fro, totally wrapped up in his business dealings. This student's name was Chaikel, this Chassid. So Rabbi Nachman knocked on the window. Somehow he got Chaikel to look up. And the Rebbe motioned him upstairs. Okay, the Rebbe calls you upstairs, you have to go. So he quickly drops what he's doing, he excuses himself, and he comes into this avira, into this atmosphere of Rabbi Nachman's Beis Medrash. And the Rebbe calls him over to the window, and he says, Chaika, look down. Look down. What do you see? What do you see below? And so Chaika says, well, I see horses, I see cattle, I see different kinds of merchandise, I see people very busy, buying and selling, commerce. He's describing the scene of the marketplace below. When he finished, Rabbi Nachman looked him in the eyes and he said, Tell me, Chaika, did you look up at the sky today? Did you look up at the sky today? And Chaika stops for a minute and he reflects and he says, no, I didn't. And the Rebbe said, I want you to listen to me very carefully, Chaika. It's a very, very deep story. And it's such a privilege to share it with you. Thank you so much for coming, for being here. Rabbi Nachman says, Chaika, I want you to listen very carefully. He says, in 50 years from now, there's going to be different horses down there, different people, different merchandise. You won't be here anymore, and I won't be here anymore. And you don't have time to look up at the sky. Now, it should be clear to you and me that Rabbi Nachman wasn't simply speaking about a physical sky. Because while important, that's not the ultimate message that Rabbi Nachman is trying to convey. That it's important for a time to stop and to look up at the sky. That's also true. And then Ayman Melech says that one of the reasons that we have many windows in a shul is because looking up at the sky awakens a certain clarity, a certain focus, a certain consciousness. You get shaken out of the noise. And you look up. You detach for a moment. You attach to something higher. But the truth is there's a sky in everything. Meaning to say, in relation to the earthiness of things, in relation to all the noise of Olam Hazeh, every experience has the chelek of earth, the aspect of this worldliness, and the aspect of the sky that's just unaffected, that's calm, where things just pass. And we're able to maintain a consciousness that life is fleeting, and that the depth of life is experienced not in quantity, but in quality. There's a sky in everything. And the sky of things is the soul of things. It's the essence of things. It's the inwardness of things. It's the part of things that we're so busy with the externalities of living that very rarely do we get a chance to just stop and to really try to connect to the soul of this relationship, to the soul of this activity, of this conversation, of this tefillah, this mitzvah. You know, the soul has two purposes of the body. The soul has two primary purposes. The first is very obvious and clear, which would be, if somebody wants to take a stab at it, what does the soul do for the body? Keeps it alive, right? It's just a simple level. On the more obvious level, the soul brings life to the body, vitality, vibrancy, otherwise it's a corpse. And the soul is in the body, it's able to move, it's able to function. But the soul has another tafkid, another purpose that's deeper. We need to look a little bit beyond to be able to identify this purpose of the soul, and that is the soul unifies. Because not too long after a body is lowered down into the grave, hopefully after 120, doesn't take very long for the body to begin to become disjointed. All of a sudden, the flesh rots away after some time, the bones begin to disjoint, and all of a sudden we're not even sure what this thing is anymore after enough time passes. The body itself is a realm of fragmentation, essentially. These eyes have nothing really to do with these ears. This is a finger, and it's not a toe. And this nose has nothing to do with this mouth. The body is the seat of fragmentation. But when the soul infuses this thing we call a body, all of a sudden, like the mishkan of different parts, it becomes one, becomes a human being. And all of a sudden, that singular soul infuses all the different facets of this thing we call the body, and it's one, and it functions as one. We live in such a realm of fragmentation so much of the time. There's so many different things in life that are calling our attention. There's so many different things just in Yiddishkeit alone that we have to constantly be focused on, and so many different halachas to learn, and so many different mitzvahs that we're doing. And there's learning, and there's davening, there's lighting Shabbos candles, and there's Shabbos, and there's this yontiv, and that yontiv, and this minhag, and that. And that's in the realm of Yiddishkeit, which is supposed to be the realm of sky, the realm of spirituality. Now sink down below into the realm of work and home, and all the different facets of our personality that we often perceive to be distant one from the other, disparate, disjointed. Wouldn't it be great if we could infuse our lives with soul? Meaning to say, an element that would both enliven, bring us passion, feeling, warmth, vitality, and unify our lives in such a way that each and every moment joins hands with the other. And where at any given moment of time, we don't feel as if we're wasting time. We feel as if this is yet another way of expressing the ultimate purpose that binds all of life together. Wouldn't that be fantastic? Isn't that what we're looking for? It's certainly what I'm looking for. What is the soul? Where do we find it in Yiddishkeit? We need look no further than the structure of time. Because time, too, has a body and a soul, like everything. The body of time is the 6 days of the week. What's the soul of time? Shabbos. Shabbos is referred to in the Zohar Kadosh as the Yom HaNishmasa. It's the day of the soul. About Shabbos, we say that Shabbos is Tachlis Maaseh Shamayim Va'aretz. Shabbos is the ultimate purpose of heaven and earth. Which means to say that the soul of a thing is the purpose of the thing. It's the why of the thing. And when we can identify a why, all of a sudden the what, where, how, and when of any given thing that we might be doing becomes infused with vibrancy and unity. Because that why, that purpose, that premise, that ultimate objective suffuses and permeates every single facet of whatever it is that we may be doing with a singular light and a singular focus and a singular passion. The call of the hour, after Baruch Hashem having such an incredible structure and framework of this thing we call Avodas Hashem, Yiddishkeit, with more learning than ever before, more accessibility to learning. It's remarkable. We're living in the Dardeya, a generation of total access to learning and to davening and to mitzvahs. It's never been easier to be an Orthodox Jew. On any level, it's never been easier. The call of the hour is to make sure that we don't get lost in the details of what, how, where, and when, to the point that we take our eye off the ball of the why, of the ultimate purpose of all of this, which is to forge a passionate, perceptible, deep, and conscious relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, with Hashem. To be able to go through davening and not really have thought about or felt or sensed Hashem in that. That's a common experience, and it's okay. And that's the generation we're living in. But imagine what that would be if we could engage in every aspect, not just of overtly spiritual experiences, but life itself, every breath that we take, every word that we say, every act that we accomplish, whether it's beruchnius or begashmius, everywhere in life. This is yet another step closer. This is yet another bond that we're forging deeper with Hashem, with becoming aware of Him, with getting ourselves out of the way to make space for Him. Life becomes unified. There's no such thing as an in-between moment anymore. And life becomes filled with vibrancy, with vitality. One quick tip, but this will come to the end of this segment. To be able to start to anchor ourselves so deeply in the why, that when we then come to performing all the other mitzvahs and all the other facets of what it is to be an Orthodox Jew, we maintain our awareness of that essential point, is something that Rabbi Nachman revealed to the world, even though it's an old Hanhaga since Adam Rishon and onward. That's called hispodidus, which literally translates as being alone. But in Rabbi Nachman's conception, it means personal prayer, which means to speak to Hashem, not in the words of the Siddur, either in the Hebrew or the English, but to speak to Hashem in your own words, like you would to your very best friend. Open. There's a time when Hashem is your king. There's a time when Hashem is our Father. There's a time when HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Lamana Chai V'Rei, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu is your best friend. And the time that we connect to that facet is in this avoda of hispodidus. Take 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day. Lock it into your schedule. Keep your phone out of sight. And go somewhere where you can be alone, preferably in nature if you can. And just speak to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Just open your heart and speak to Him ki'ilu, like you mamash believed He existed, really. To the point that it's not crazy to you that you would be walking, talking, and there's nobody there listening, because mamash, you believe in that moment. Someone's listening, and He cares about every detail. The smallest little thing that you think is below the dignity of God, to take up His time with this small thing. No, there's no such thing. Hashem has space for you. The moment that we begin to exercise this ability to speak to Hashem clearly and in our own words of hispodidus, the moment that we then come to mincha and realize that the same God that I speak to in hispodidus is the God that I'm davening to in the siddur, it's a different mincha. It's a different mincha. Because God is no longer a concept. God is mamish, a part of your life. You don't need to meditate on the oneness of God, or you don't need to have some intellectual proof that God exists. He exists because I speak to Him. He exists because I feel the echo of His response reverberating through my daily life. I have a relationship with Him. I rely on Him. Emunah is not just knowing that there's a God. Emunah is living every single moment with the realization that every breath that I take is being blown into me lovingly by the Creator and gifted to me, so that I can open up my mind and see Hashem everywhere, see the sky in every earth. Be able to pause for long enough to realize that life is not what it seems. It's a facade. Go deep. Go deeper. Go deeper. There's never been a generation like ours. The thirst is so great, specifically because it seems as if we've quenched all religious thirsts. How could a Jew be thirsty anymore? Not a hunger for bread or for water. Jews are thirsty for God. How could you be thirsty? Everywhere you turn, there's a water cooler of spirituality, wherever you look. Every house has a shas, we have Torah anytime, and meaningful minute, and shiurim, and and shuls and Pesach programs and glossy magazines. How could a Jew be thirsty? But somehow, with all the what, where, how, and when, Yidden are so thirsty for the why. To the point that Moshe David Valley, the Talmud of the Ramchal, says, on that pasuk, days are coming and there will not be a hunger for bread and there won't be a thirst for water, but the thirst will be to hear the voice of God. He says that bread and water there are not referring to physical pleasures, which is the way that we ordinarily translate the pasuk. They won't be any more hungry for bread or for water, for gashmias. People are going to want to learn. That's what it simply means. He says no. He says at the end of time, days are coming where the thirst will be so great, not for bread, which in Chazal can sometimes be a reference to the Torah, and not for water, which in Chazal in Mayim Ela Torah. If he didn't say this, I couldn't dare say it. Moshe David Valley, it's mefurish. He says the thirst won't be for Torah because you'll have it already. He says the thirst will be kim l'shmoya l'devar Hashem. I want a Torah where I can perceive HaKadosh Baruch Hu whispering to me through every pasuk that I learn, through every Rashi that I learn, through every Gemara that I learn, through every tefillah that I say, for every mitzvah that I do. The Shmoya l'devar Hashem is what our generation is searching for, and we have the tools. HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent us tzaddikim of Pnimius, both from the Beis Medrash of the Gra and the Beis Medrash of the Baal Shem HaKadosh. Pick your weapon, as long as it's deep, as long as it's Torah that relates to the why. It's never been more crucial to make a commitment on a daily level, on a weekly level, to have a shir in Pnimius, to learn something that relates not just, I say just, I don't mean it, not relating to what to do, how to do it, when to do it, where to do it, but that addresses the why of Yiddishkeit, that gives you a feeling that there's a Hashem in the world that loves me, that's desperate for a relationship with me. And in so doing, we can begin to live a life where not only do we sometimes have time to look up at the sky, but we live constantly with our gaze on a higher reality, and from time to time we look down at the earth. Sula mutzav arza, we walk the ground with our feet. We don't belong here. We're not here for long. We're here to transform. That's my bracha to you, and that's my bracha to me. And I don't say it in a way of like I'm preaching, like this is our struggle. This is something that I struggle with, and it's something that I know that if I don't connect to this kind of Torah, I can't breathe. It's mamish oxygen for me. I give us a bracha, we should be able to find tzaddikim that speak to the heart, and Torah that speaks to the soul, that quenches that thirst. And when that thirst becomes quenched, it only grows stronger. We're lovesick for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's no deeper quenching than that. To live a life of seeking, a life of searching, a life of going beyond the surface, a life of marching Eilecha toward HaKadosh Baruch Hu's embrace. Thanks for listening and for being here. Okay, I want to teach a song. If we could have the reverb back again. Thank you. And the song really just has one word. And the one word is ruach, which means spirit, soul. And when we sing it, it's slow, it's meditative, let's try to call out that place within us that's thirsty, that's yearning, that's striving, that wants something that's higher than just the earth. And to call out the ruach from the world, to recognize Hashem's presence in this room now. That's the whole low part, please join me. Diddy da 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 ma ya ya ma da da da. Ah ya 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 ma da da da. Oh da da ma ya da ma da da da. Ah ya ya ya. Oh da da.